Well, hello again, and welcome back to Beyond the Compass, where travelers and the paranormal meet at the crossroad. I am your host, Eric, and today we're excited to have as our guest Tiffany Coelho, founder and lead investigator of Orange County Paranormal Investigations. Now, Tiffany started OCPI in 2023, bringing over 15 years of experience in the New Age and metaphysical space, with skills ranging from meditation, mediumship, Reiki, and shamanism, as well as psychometry, where she can gain impressions of the past just by touching an object. OCPI has quickly become a respected team in the field, and Tiffany's investigations have taken them to some of the most iconic haunted locations in the country, including the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri, and most recently the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California, and the notorious Clown Motel in Tonopah, Nevada. But they don't just focus on famous locations. If you have a haunted house, they even do house calls. Her passion for the paranormal has led her to form the Spirit Chaser Project, an exciting endeavor started earlier this year that's bound to shed new light on the mysteries of the spirit world. So let's dive in and learn more about Tiffany's journey into the unknown. Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How are you today?
I'm great.
Great. So let's just get into it from the beginning. So can you share what first drew you into the metaphysical and how it inspired you to turn that interest into a full-fledged paranormal investigative team? Was there a particular moment or experience that sparked that choice?
Um, it was like a whole life moment. It's really hard to explain because, things happen to you as children, and a lot of times they get misplaced by parents and kind of brushed off as being, oh, you're making things up or you're imagining things or stuff like that. So I've had stuff actually going on since I was a very, very young child. Um, and I learned throughout my teens and young adulthood to basically shove those things away because those things were not talked about, you know.
Mhm.
Um and I found that in my life I've worn many hats. I've done lots of things. I was in, bands. I worked for a Playboy. Like, I'm a hairstylist. I own a hair salon. So I've done all these different things in my life, but nothing made sense until I started my spirituality journey. And that's kind of when everything kind of hit me. And I was like, hey, these are gifts. This isn't a curse. And let's just go with it. So I just started with doing ascension meditation. It was actually a client at my salon who introduced me to it. And it was just a way to kind of calm the chatter in my mind and all the worry and anxiety. I had really bad anxiety. And a lot of
Mhm.
the reason I had anxiety is because I wasn't allowed to talk about the things that were going on with me. So it was like I was just constant, filling this container with a bunch of bullshit and it needed to all come out. Basically, that's what it is. I mean, when you get into light work, you're basically like scooping out your container and getting rid of it and refilling it with light and education and love. And that's what I needed to do. So I started with
Because you had
meditation.
because you
Go
had
ahead.
suppressed it for so long since you were a teenager.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't something that my parents like wanted to deal with. They were like, no, no, no. So um I think they thought it was like attention getting, but I was like, no, there's like a man in my room, like he's there. Um and it's funny because now, my husband kind of like laughs at me and he's like, "Oh my god, there was fully something in here now." And it's like, so I don't feel like now I have to hide whatever I'm doing. And that's when I got on that spiritual path, years ago. It's like all of a sudden I met like all these people that were like, "Oh, hey, I've had this or I've had that." And it's like made me feel like, "Okay, cool. Now I can really dive into these things." And I did, and I haven't looked back since. And I've just continued my journey of learning class after, a workshop or, yeah, I mean, I was in the Amazon, on illicit substances trying to find myself during my shamanism program. And I mean, who can say that they're in the Amazon for a week on plant medicine? I mean, it's pretty
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
What
So
is that? What is that plant that's supposed to like take you to
ayahuasca.
a? Ayahuasca. I always forget the
Yeah,
name of
I've
it.
I've
Can you
done that
tell?
quite a few times. That was actually when I
Wow.
finished all of my, shamanism stuff. It's kinda like your rite of passage when you're, like, finish your program. It's like, "Okay, go out in the jungle by yourself, go do your thing," and I did. San Pedro's another one of them, but, yeah, like, I've never stopped, but the paranormal has always been there. It's never been gone. That's why I relied on mediumship so heavily, for a lot of it as well. So, which is it's very difficult with this job because, I take a very scientific approach. Like, I'm not trying to go on my feelings or we have a couple sensitives in our group, and I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no. Like, let's get all the facts. I want facts."
Mhm.
You know, I only want to keep it factual. So, this for me, the last, 15 years has just been creating a safe nest around me, but also for others who, enjoy this work or want to do this or have things that are going on with them, that maybe they can't explain and feeling, just open and honest with this community. So,
Hmm. So with that, maybe when you created the team, or maybe prior to the team, did you ever feel yourself like pulled in two directions? Because part of you demanded the logic from it, but was that logic side battling what was instinctive to you?
um, not necessarily. I think for me, what's pulled me more is family and time for anything. It's like, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work to put together what I'm putting together. I mean, everybody just thinks you just go grab a camera and a flashlight and a recorder and just be like, okay,
Yeah.
go. They don't understand like the time and effort and mental energy. I mean, so I get off these shoots and I've been physically ill. um, I'm like just dead to the world for the next day. I'm so exhausted because it's mentally draining as well. So it's for me, it's like finding a balance, when we're doing shoots or even just, I was doing stuff like this before I even had the team. And it's you have to be able to put up your shields and keep your energy around you
I
white
was
and
just
light.
I was
Yep.
just going to ask if you put up like walls, when you're dealing,
Oh yeah.
especially
Yeah.
when you're in the spot.
Totally. So I call it like my grids. I put up my grids. And basically that's part of the Reiki that I do. It's just, I just surround myself. Same thing with shamanism. They talk about your golden luminous energy, your energy body. And what I do is I just put that golden luminous weave all over myself. Um and I notice that it makes a big difference. And I've told my team several times, hey, put up your grids, put up your stuff, because they're worried about things following them home and draining their energy and having a negative effect. And I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Some people are
Been there,
like,
done that.
that's not realistic, but it is. Unfortunately, it is. I've been really lucky. I mean, my house is typically normally haunted anyways, but they're all
Mhm.
people that I've let in.
Wow.
Because I did do mediumship, and so I'm okay with a lot of that stuff, but a lot of people aren't, so that kinda
Yeah,
sucks.
I have one. I have like one, maybe two consistent around my home, and yeah, it's nothing really crazy. It's just I have these two cookbooks on top of my fridge, and they kind of move the cookbooks around. Constantly. They're always moved because one has it's from the Supernatural TV show, and there's a funky symbol on the front cover. So I think whatever's here doesn't like that symbol, so it tries to slowly turn the book towards the wall.
That's
So
funny.
that
Maybe views it as, like, a sigil or something, and it doesn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning to make a video of it. It's an easy video. I just set up on a tripod, film my fridge. It's like
Yeah, there you go, just leave it on for the next 3 days and see what happens.
my fridge is haunted.
There
So
you go.
yeah. So now you mentioned you occasionally use psychometry, which allows you to gain insights by touching objects. Can you explain how that ability works and what your experiences have been with it during an investigation?
Yeah, so again, I try to take everything from like a scientific approach. I really don't try to rely on any of my sensitivity or mediumship skills or even psychometry at points, but I have been asked. Um, and so I will normally what I'll do is kind of check out the object first. Like we'll set up the camera on it, or if it feels like a haunted object, it's like I'm gonna look at it every aspect scientifically before I do any psychometry. Once the psychometry comes, I'm usually able to kind of distinguish what's real and what's not at that point. And you kind of put it together with the scientific, and then it makes a beautiful package. So, picking up impressions, what I've experienced is the person who used them. Um Things that have happened in their lives. Um it's a very cool, but it's a very scary tool.
Yeah, because I noticed your video for your Limp Mansion investigation in St. Louis. It was a three-part video
Mhm.
investigation, and I noticed in one of them when someone was telling you about certain things in the house, you were like, "Okay, well, I can do psychometry, but if I don't have to, and that's
Oh,
why I'm
oh,
like,
no, you're
okay."
talking about the Waffle House.
Oh, Waffle House. I'm
So
sorry.
yeah,
That's
it's
right.
Waffle House. Yeah, okay, so she had a doll, and she was like, "Well, maybe put an EVP recorder," and I was like, "Well, you want me to do psychometry?" And it's like, "I can," but at the same time, when you gather impressions like that, for me, it's like if I do it first, then I'm going to have that in my head no matter what scientific thing I get that disputes it, right? So you want to take your
Mhm.
scientific approach first. And if I'm not getting the answer I want, then I'll go to my more sensitive stuff. We have three, four sensitives in our group, and so it's part of the reason why I started OCPI was because I had tried to join other paranormal groups. They're like, no sensitives, no sensitives. I'm like, dude, that's stupid. Like,
Right.
I'm like, that's one of the coolest things you can have, but I get it. Like, they don't want to skew results. I don't want to skew results. Like, I'm not in this. I don't film anything that's fake. Everything that happens
Right.
happens. Now, do we put all the best stuff together and make it a show?
Mhm.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that doesn't happen, but do we fake anything? Absolutely not. It's all 100% real. And I have held my ground about keeping the show completely real. And if it was going to skew any other direction, I'm not doing it because I'm not in it for that. I'm in it for my own
Very.
answers, you know?
Yeah, and actually, to be totally honest with you, that's one of the reasons I reached out to you because, like I said in the initial email, I'm always on the lookout for paranormal content creators and travel influencers to interview. But especially with the paranormal crowd, I go through all these different channels and I check out a couple of videos from each one. The first thing I look for on the page of all their videos is if there's a word demon in the title. If I see demon in the title of any of their video, I'm like, bye, nope, oh, thank you. Okay, no, that's my first criteria. And then I look at how they approach it. Like, okay, this place is said to be haunted. Let's find out. Or it was creepy. If it's like that, I'm like, okay, like any person, level-headed person would go in there. And it's been tough to find investigators like you that are like not trying to do a jump scare every 10 seconds or just make it crazy or I got possessed by a demon 3 times this month and I've got a pentagram burned into my
But I'm
arm.
possessed again.
Yeah, so uh,
Ghost adventures.
yeah,
I mean, what did I
yeah,
say?
yeah, yeah, and it's like that show is great. I've been watching it for years, but when you see somebody on YouTube trying to emulate it and then taking it
Yeah.
to a point where it's ridiculous, and I don't want to. Those are the people I don't want to interview who say they're
Yeah.
possessed or run into demons every place they go. It's not realistic. And
Yeah.
then when I
I
when
get
I
it.
found your channel, I'm like, okay, and I started watching more of your videos. I'm like, okay, this is someone I can talk to. This is someone I want to reach out to because they're grounded. More ways than I realized at first too, which is great.
Oh, that's good.
Um,
Hopefully.
yeah, so yeah, you meet my criteria on all, basically not I don't want any fakes on here. I have no interest in talking to fakes, and that's why I reached out to you. I'm like, okay, she's solid. She seems like a nice lady. So
I
that's why I
appreciate
reached
that.
out. Absolutely. Now, as I understand it, Reiki is all about using energy to reduce stress, promote relaxation, and restore balance in the body. How do you incorporate that into one of your cases, especially when you're dealing with, excuse me, when you're dealing with spirits or energies that may seem unsettled or disruptive?
So we had that actually at the Waffle House. Our one of our members, Josh, who is we call him our music therapist. He's this
Okay.
amazing piano guy, and he's
He's
got a
a
YouTube
the
channel.
dark-haired kid,
Uh,
right?
he's yeah, well, he's not really a kid, but
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
he's
I'm an old guy, so like everybody's a kid to me.
yeah, but
You're a kid to me.
oh, good, yay. He's an amazing piano. I mean, he's just he's phenomenal. And he's got a YouTube channel too. It's Josh Morpheus Music. And
I,
he
I will add a link to his channel in the
oh,
description
yes,
below
that would
or
be great.
yours.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh,
he's honestly he's freaking phenomenal. We're gonna go see him. He works at the Waffle House actually, and we're gonna go see him this weekend at his candlelight piano concert. Should be amazing. But
awesome.
he's a sensitive, and he doesn't want to be called a medium. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like the communication because he has, and I don't even like saying the word demon. I was like the D word. He has had some of these things that have caused him to have bad experiences. And we had like this like highlight experience where we were sitting there singing the ABCs, which was his idea. Then all of a sudden both of the balls go off at once and we're like, oh, and then like not even a minute after that, he's like, oh no. Oh no. And I knew that he was seeing something he didn't want to see. And it was like he's like, I have to leave the room. So I pulled him out with me. Like we went out to the room together. And that's a time when I used Reiki because I was like, come here, and so I just put my head close to him and I just, held him close to me. And I was just like pushing all of my white light energy on him until it was like done. He had to take a few minutes because I mean, it really upset him. It wasn't the house. It's not the house. It's just something that's followed him. So, we have had stuff like that, unfortunately, and you do. I mean, it's like it's not few far in between now, and that's again putting up your grids, putting up your white light. We've done a circle. I did a circle of protection that night, and it's still, sometimes it's just not enough. So
So
unfortunately, some people just stay haunted. But Josh is amazing. I mean, he's really, really good at what he does. He's great on the show. He's very, very good investigator. He's
yeah,
extremely thorough, so it works,
yeah, he's yeah. So actually, with Josh, what I did notice in one of your videos, he's very personable, very likable on
Oh
camera.
yeah.
And
He's
you see,
hilarious.
yeah, and you see sometimes when someone starts a YouTube channel of their own, they're still trying to find their way. And he was just like, "Hey, everybody," and then he goes into what he was talking about. So I'm like, okay, I like it. Um, but I have to ask, with you said you have four sensitives on the team.
Yeah, so including myself, AC, who is like kind of like our tech guy, he's like he wouldn't call himself a sensitive, but he is. Like he
Mhm.
feels things that I'm just like, "Oh my god, look at the poor guy. He's like all red and just like what's going on?" And he's a sensitive. He's very sensitive to it.
So
So, and then
he could be the reluctant sensitive.
he is to a point, but he knows it. And then Lauren is our historian, and she's seen stuff. I mean, she saw a guy running when we did Santora, and I mean, like we ended up I felt bad. We kind of cornered him and then got his information and found out he had just died 2 years ago. His name was Joseph, and we were right next to his like artwork place. And so it was just like, oh my god, so everything during that shoot lined up so sequentially for us. We were just like, but it wouldn't have happened if Lauren wouldn't have said, hey, I just saw a guy running. So we didn't even
So
know. I didn't even pick him up. But of course, I was trying to corral everybody together at that point. So, you know.
yeah. So with that many sensitives on your team, I would imagine maybe like a couple of you would sense something at the same time, but have uh, two or more of you ever actually saw the same thing and like could corroborate, like, yeah, I saw it too, or anything like that?
Um, we not necessarily seen things the same time, but we've all felt things the same time. The problem is and this is what I've tried to be really, really good about my team, because I'm used to going on solo adventures by myself. Like, so I can do whatever I want when I want to do it. And my cameraman follows me around. When you have, 6 members and 4 of them are like going in different directions, then sometimes it's a problem. So not everybody is like looking or watching the same thing at the same time. So what I've tried to do is kind of try to isolate us a little bit more in kind of smaller groups at times, even just so that we can all have experiences and not have us all feeling our way around somewhere
So
because it doesn't work.
that way you get to focus everyone at least, or at least have a.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to have their own experience, but it's hard when you have like, 4 people feeling things and then being like, "Oh, we should go over here. We should go over. I saw this. I saw." It creates chaos, especially during a shoot. Now, if we weren't shooting, it wouldn't matter. It would just be, all in whatever. But we are shooting, and I do have to keep it organized because we only have one cameraman right now. And then our other one he does photography, but he's running our night cam. And so it's like we're like, okay, well, we can't have, she's feeling something over here and I'm feeling something over here. It's like, so sometimes we have to be patient, but we are sometimes noticing things together. I believe AC and Josh actually saw a man. We did Spadra Cemetery. It's like an old abandoned cemetery. And I believe they saw the same man come out of from behind the tree, and they both were just like, "Oh no!" So
At the same time.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they both were
Wow.
talking about it. So, it would be really amazing to have some of these experiences kind of sync together. That's why, like, I don't want my team to get too big. I've been trying to keep
Right.
it kind of. I let anybody who wants to be a part of the group. I just don't let everybody film.
Right.
So it's too difficult. But yeah, no, it would be really, really cool if we could sync some of these more together. But a lot of times we have our own experiences, and it's great because then it's like our own personal thing we can just add into the storyline.
Right. Now, with these skills that you have, and then I assume other members of your team, with the background in Reiki and shamanism and psychometry, with all these collective skills, do you use it? Do you ever use it as a tool in your work to clear negative energy from a location, or to help spirits transition to a more peaceful state?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, so this is like a super personal thing for me. So, um I had a client who died,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
she came to me like 2 days after she died, and I had an out of body experience, and she said I need to get to the other side to be with my son. She decided she didn't want to be on this plane without him anymore. And I told her I'll take you to him, and I moved her over. Um, I did that before I started my shamanism program. When I talked to somebody about it, they said you need to look into shamanism because that's basically what that is a removal and moving energy. Um, and that's what I do. I've had it happen with several energies. It happened with my dog. I mean, I'm just like, okay, and I just know where to move them. I don't know. Um, so it's come up during a couple investigations, and in this line, it's not really ethical to move energies over unless they ask for it. And I have had them ask for it. They asked for it. God, which one was that? I think it was Clown Motel. They said, "Can you please move me?" And I was just like, "Oh no!" Like, and I didn't even notice it until editing time. And so to me, it was a bit horrifying. Like, oh God, like this person asked me to help them. But the same thing at Lemp Mansion, they were like, my producer was like, well, why can't you move them on? They're here. They obviously, they're stuck. And I'm like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not my job unless somebody seeks me out.
Okay.
So if that's to
Okay.
answer it, it's just very I can remove like, I can sage somewhere and remove negative energy, but you're talking about
Yeah.
physically moving an energy to the other side. That's like a whole nother level of
Okay. So, because that was going to be my next question, because I can totally. I never looked at it that way, but that's actually amazing that you wouldn't assist unless they asked you to assist them to go on to the other side. And then my question would be the flip side of that, if especially if you were brought into somewhere to deal with a potentially negative energy. So helping one move on is not the same as getting rid of a negative energy or a really disruptive negative spirit. They're two separate uh actions.
Yeah, so I've done a bunch of house clearings for people. And I don't go in being like, you have to leave, you can't be here. I don't do that. What I do is saying, like, you don't have to be stuck here anymore. There's somewhere that's much better. And so like, I don't know. It
It's
would they would
different.
have they would yeah, they would have to come to me. Like, I can go in and cleanse a place, but I'm not there to move anything. I'm just there to say, "Hey, behave." We can all coexist. You guys can all coexist at one. There's no way you need to have this negative. Now, if it's negative, yeah, he needs to leave. But I'm not going in there trying to cure a situation. I'm going in there to empower the person who's there to empower their own situation. So that's all I'm doing. It's like the same thing with Reiki healing or shamanic healing. It's like I'm not physically or energetically healing them. I'm lending them my energy for them to heal themselves. It's all about power of the mind and manipulating that energy. So it's kind of the same concept. It's like when we die, we're energy, So do I want to manipulate that? Is that like logical, or do I just want to like let that
Or
energy
ethical.
figure it out for itself?
Right.
So
Right.
that's kind of my whole take on it. I know it's
Oh,
rather complicated. I could talk about it for
right.
hours, but
No, yeah, it's interesting. It is since I've started this podcast and talked to so many different people in this field and the viewpoints, it's really like, wow, there's so many times like right now, I never thought of it that way. It's like my mind is uh, opening to this as well. Now, on the subject of clearing a house or helping
Mhm.
someone, that's one of the things I did find interesting about OCPI is that you do make house calls if someone thinks their home is haunted. And if they do, they reach out to you. What are the steps you take to assess whether paranormal activity is happening? What's the process like, and how do you approach helping these people?
So it's funny because we first, kind of offered it um to be like, hey, do you want to be on our show? And then I was like, oh, that was probably a really bad idea because we got a lot of messages. So I was like, oh no, I don't know if that was a good idea or not.
Everybody
Um
wants to be on YouTube.
everybody's like, oh, we want to be on your show, and I'm just like, oh god, I have friends and family are like, can I just stand in the background while you guys film? And I'm like, no, like, this is my job, this is what I do, this is what I get paid for. And yeah, so a house call mainly would look like us showing up. We will obviously do an interview. I usually bring another team member with me. And then us just asking the experiences that have happened, writing them down, and just seeing if, I'm definitely, if we're going to film it, I'm gonna like want to have some pretty significant stuff because it's a big deal. It costs me money, to bring my crew over there and for us to investigate for the night. Um, but obviously checking, well, if I had a bad feeling in this room, okay, so I'll bring my EMF detector and just be like, okay, well, you have super high EMF. Like, that's something. And I hate to say it, but a lot of it goes on feeling. That's when I
Mhm.
use some of those skills, like whether I like this is something that we really, really need to look into. And then we'll make the decision at that point if we're going to go ahead and film it. We do have a couple right now that we will be putting on our film schedule, so those will be more interesting. It's really hard to guarantee paranormal activity when you're filming too.
Oh, no.
So, but if I can
Yeah,
help
yeah.
somebody, even if we don't film, I'll do it. It's totally fine. I don't mind doing that. I love what I do. So, um, but yeah, I mean, we'll get the run of the mill before we were to investigate someone's house. And then obviously during that time, they would leave the house, we don't need to investigate overnight. Um, that's the biggest misconception about ghost hunting is that it all happens at night. No, that shit happens anytime during the day. Like, I've had
Yeah.
stuff happen at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, really? I'd be like trying to take a nap and the spirit will come to me and start talking to me. I'm like, dude, this is like the wrong time. Like, I'm tired.
You're like personal
So,
space.
yeah, that's what I'm like, oh God, grid, beep, and then I'm like, okay. Um, but yeah, so it would be like, it doesn't even need to be overnight, but it's probably something, middle, like, 5 o'clock, early evening to maybe like midnight, to really get, some sort of idea. And at that point, if the person asks, like, hey, then I'll clear the energy. I'm just not entirely sure I can clear the person.
Okay. And that's honest. I mean, there's everyone has a certain limit to like, okay, I can only go so far with this. This is where you take it from here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Now, on the same note, you've investigated both famously well-known haunted locations, Queen Mary, Clown Motel, and private homes. Do you find a difference in the type of paranormal activity between a well-known site and a personal residence?
Well-known site, you're guaranteed activity. And that's why a lot of it, if you notice some of these shows, they started at people's homes, like Ghost Hunters. Got in their plumbing van, went to people's homes. Sometimes it had stuff happen, sometimes it didn't. Well, because of the cost of production and everything for me, like I need stuff to happen
Mhm.
in order to make a show. Now, I understand some shows I'm going to have that aren't going to have as much, and that's okay. But I think for productivity, it's super important to always expect nothing and then get everything out of it. I go in some
Mhm.
of these places. I went into Oak Alley. It's a plantation in Louisiana, and very low
That rings a
expectations.
that
I
rings a
was like,
bell
"Oh,
somewhere.
it's kind of haunted. It's just really iconic, really cool looking. It's got the oaks that grow over. It's in the Interview with the Vampire and a bunch of movies. Sleepy
Okay,
Hollow.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that's like
it's a
why
really
does that ring a bell?
badass place. Very dark, ugly history, which is horrific. But that place had was off the chain. And I went in just being like, oh, okay, we're probably going to have a couple things and then we'll just go to our next stop. So it's like, I don't go in with thinking, oh God, this place has to be haunted. But if I'm going to a location and I'm paying for that location, like, we're going to the Stanley and we're going to a bunch of places in Colorado, like, you best believe I'm going to stay there until something happens. But in somebody's homes, like you can't guarantee it. What I've learned this last year filming as much as we have is that some people, not places, are haunted. And that's going to follow them wherever they go. It's not
I can see that.
necessarily the place that's holding that value. Um, and that's that's a really interesting concept to have to like try to like deal
Explain to
with when you're
someone.
trying to film and create something. And I'm like, this person's like out of their mind. They're doing it themselves. So they are the ghost.
So, in that case, I mean, like, there's a difference for those watching or listening that may not be familiar with the difference between residual hauntings and intelligent hauntings. A residual haunting is kind of like if they see a ghost and they see it again, it's like doing the same thing. They're almost caught on a loop. Whereas a intelligent haunting is something where you can actually communicate back and forth with. So, do you find that there's a difference between residual hauntings and intelligent hauntings where they communicate? I mean, how do you tell the difference?
um, the best way to tell difference is I'll go in and do like an EMF sweep. That's like super standard. We go in and we do them usually even sometimes before we even start filming, just to kind of get the lay of the land if there's any like electrical. I've been in places that have literally no electricity around them, and every 2 minutes I get whoop on the K2, then it goes away. Whoop on the K2, it goes away. And so that to me is residual. It's in a timed loop, it's going around.
Mm.
Now, an intelligent spirit is something that's going to interact. I've been touched, I've been stabbed, um, and my number one communication with spirit when I know something is there is my spirit box. Like, I jam that thing out. And I know a lot of people don't understand how spirit boxes work, but
Mhm.
let me tell you, they're like, oh, it's somebody else on a radio talking to you and giving you answers you want. I'm like, dude, it's a one-way radio. There ain't nothing on the other end except
Yeah,
a radio station and white noise. I'm like, okay.
yeah. I did notice. I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
There's an in one of your early videos. I saw you were using an app. I think it was called Ghost Tube on your something like
Oh,
that.
for SLS?
Yes,
Is
yes.
it for SLS or they make one for a voice app thing too, which we thought was really kind of fake. But then as I was reviewing Queen Mary footage, I'm like, wow, a couple of these answers are really legit. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah, I think it was the one with the SLS.
It's probably the
Go,
SLS. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to get the big SLS. But that one on my phone has been working really well. We
what
have
is it?
caught some
I was
crazy
going to
stuff.
ask you, what is that app called? If you don't mind my asking.
It's Ghost Tube.
It is Ghost Tube.
It is
Yeah.
Ghost Tube. Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple
Okay.
different ones, but you know how an SLS works, right?
That's why when I saw the app you were using, I'm like,
Yeah.
that would be handy because those SLL things are so big and clunky, and it's
They're
like,
big, they're super expensive. I have so much gear. Like we were talking about getting like the full like setup gear that, in every room. And I'm just like, oh my God, like when does it ever end? So that's why we were
yeah,
talking about getting a van because I was like, I'm gonna need some sort of like sprinter van or something else to have so that I can put all my stuff in, but we can travel and I don't have to worry about being stuck, if there's no
mhm,
hotel or but it just the dollars start adding up and then you're just like, "Oh my God, I've
absolutely.
spent all this money." But it's honestly, it's such cool stuff. It's like Christmas
Yeah,
every time I get a new
it
piece of equipment, I'm like,
it
"Yeah."
just builds, and you're like, do you really need this? I'm like, kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
um,
It's like my husband's fishing collection. It's like, "Do you really need that new lure?" And he's like, "Yeah, duh." I'm like,
yeah,
"Okay."
there's a
Yeah, I really needed that $300 piece of ghost hunting equipment.
yeah, there's one
Tax
piece of
write-off.
equipment. Yeah, there's one piece of equipment I'm kind of curious about getting, but it creeps me out at the same time. The company Ghost Stop, they have a
Oh, yeah.
lot of good products,
Yeah, they
and one
have
of
great
them
stuff.
one of them is a teddy bear. Okay,
Oh, Boo
that
Buddy.
speaks in Boo Buddy, yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually met the guys, the owners of Ghost Stop. I met them at a Paracon a couple of years back. Super nice guys. I'm chatting with them at their table, and I'm like, "That's really creative, but scares the hell out of me." And they thought it was hilarious. I'm like, "Yeah." And
I
I
think
know
it's
that
great.
if I bought it, my sister would totally snag it from me. So I don't know.
Oh,
Probably I would have it for like an hour before she would take off with it because she loves
so
creepy
they're
dolls.
they're so cool, and they've gotten so good with, because, like, spiritual beings are made of energy, and picking them up with different things is just it's phenomenal, all the gear. I mean, like, it's like you just start collecting stuff over time, and then I'm like, "Okay, crap, I gotta replace that," but then it's like, "Oh, I got something new and better." Like, when I had a spirit box originally, like, years ago, it was like just like it only had like a radio thing and you just see the skipping. Like it did not have like the noise condensers and it didn't have the processing and it didn't like
Oh yeah, I hate those old spirit boxes. They're like a just hearing them like I want to run out of the room. It's like a
they're the
knife in the
worst.
ear.
Yeah, they're the worst. But the gear is the fun part. It's the expensive part, but it's a fun part, and Boo Buddy is awesome. That's definitely something I will be adding here pretty soon as well. It's just I try not to go too crazy because I try to think of like, okay, what shoots we have coming up? What stuff would be good for that shoot? And then I just see if it's within my budget or not. And if it is, then I'll snatch it up and then we'll use it. So but it's fun.
Right on. Now, at the time of this recording, we're recording on Thursday, and your most recent investigation into the Queen Mary premieres tomorrow. So by the time this video is up, it's already going to be on your channel. So on the Queen Mary, so it's one of the more famous locations, almost like everyone in the world, everyone in the paranormal community knows about the Queen Mary.
Hmm.
What was your experience like there? I mean, do you think it deserves its haunted reputation?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like going to the Mitzvah. Like the Mitzvah Hotel was
Oh,
like,
in Tonopah?
mhm. Like
Yeah.
you wanted to Lemp Mansion was like maybe like I mean, Lemp Mansion was beyond haunted, but like they were very nice.
So on
Um,
scale from 1 to 10, the locations.
okay, it depends on how you're talking about that scale. So like if the scale could be like, like the spirits were mean and awful and absolutely just like neurotic and crazy. That
Or
was
just
Mitzvah.
activity, just activity.
Activity was like a 10, like a
Or
9 to 10 at Mitzvah. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, my spirit box communications were some of the most rude, and I mean, the stuff that came out of that thing, I had no idea. I thought we were partying, playing cards down in the basement, and you have to, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm just me and my cameraman. They're like, "Yeah, go ahead, investigate." So we went, and we're down there, and I'm getting called all sorts of obscenities and things. I'm just like,
Well, that's rude.
I was jaw dropped. I opened my spirit box up in our room that we're staying in, and I got called the C word within 30 seconds of opening up that spirit box. And it's going to open up my Mitzvah
Wow.
investigation. That's going to be the first clip because it was so ridiculous. Now, talking about Queen Mary, Queen Mary is like, there wasn't like murders and things there. So I don't think the energy collected there collectively was like angry or mean. I just think they're just there. I didn't feel anything dark, ominous, like everybody's like, "Oh, it's got to be dark and mean and like, axe murdery every time." And I'm like, "It's not though. Sometimes it's just very innocent." But yeah, no, the Queen Mary is 100% haunted. We had a really good shoot.
Did you stay in that did you stay in that
Oh,
room? Is it
oh,
B, UB
B340?
34?
No.
Yeah,
But
B340.
that will be upcoming. We have planned to rent that room for 2 nights and shoot. So I shot 2 nights, one with my team and one from my other channel that I do on OFTV. And it was I had just as much stuff happen the second night that it didn't make it to the group's episode because they're 2 separate things. And I was just like, but nothing was mean. But yeah, the Queen Mary's haunted. It's so cool. Like
Oh,
if you have a chance,
so
if you're in
it
Long Beach,
lives up to the hype.
book a room and just stay and go creep around at night. It's just such a cool ship. It's got so much history
Yeah,
and
I've been
it's
there
rad.
once before, but I was a kid at the time. God, I was might have been 18 or 19 at the time, and we were just a bunch of us joking around, fooling around. We walked up there for like all of 5, 10 minutes, and then we left. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
everyone, because I used to live in LA, so Long Beach wasn't very far from me,
Yeah.
But you just things happen, and you never get out there. But are you in the LA area, or are you further south?
No, I'm in Orange County, so I live in Huntington Beach.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty
so
out
our
there.
members are kind of all, I mean, one of them lives in Fallbrook, the other one lives in like, oh god, like one lives in Santa Ana, one lives in San Fernando Valley. I mean, AC I think lives all the way near like Elsinore. I mean, I was like, I thought this was Orange County Paranormal. But
Yeah.
no,
Might
it's
have to
fine.
change the name.
I honestly, I don't care where anybody's from. I just want to make sure that I have good people that support what we're doing. That's all. And they've all 100%, like are down for the cause and they're all great in their own way. And it's just really amazing to be able to work with such great people.
Yeah,
So,
if you want, whenever we're done here, I can give you a few locations in the LA area you might want to check out that aren't
of
one or
course.
two people have heard about. There's a couple others that I did a little more digging that I was
Uh-huh.
starting to film at, but then other things came up, and then I eventually moved out here to Texas. But I've got a few places with a few interesting backstories that are not broadly known that
That's
you
what
might
we
like.
like. That's what we
Yeah,
like. Because,
there's
I mean, we can go to like, we can do the Cecile or we were going to do the Hotel with the Chateau Marmont. They have the
Right.
Roosevelt. Like those are a couple of them that are really amazing. There was another one I messaged them about. I don't think they got back to me, but there's I mean, people have died everywhere around this
Right.
planet. I mean, they're out for millions of years. So it's like I don't really like keep haunts to certain areas. It's kind of just wherever. And again, there's haunted people, so it might just
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah, there's one you want to talk about, kind of well known. Everybody in LA knows about it. Outside of LA, people really haven't heard of it. But I filmed one of my first videos up there, and this is when I just started my channel. I mean, I was using my phone to film everything, and I
Hmm.
still got something there. It's in Griffith Park. If
Oh yeah,
you
perfect.
yeah, if you Google picnic table number 29,
Yeah, yeah. A
and
couple
all the
didn't
stories.
a couple get murdered there?
Well, there's okay. So it's up in the air.
Like a
It depends who
lovers
you talk to.
thing?
So I really call it an urban legend because
Okay.
it's very tough to prove that it actually happened. But then when I went there, something kind of eerie happened. So for those of you
Mm.
that may not be familiar, in Griffith Park, it's like one of the largest parks in the country. It's right in the heart of LA. There's mountains there. It's like the place is ridiculously massive, thousands of acres. You could easily get lost in there. And there's one location. It's a picnic bench. It's called, and if you can Google picnic table number 29. The urban legend is that back in the late 70s, there was a young couple on Halloween night started fooling around on top of a picnic table. Then a tree that was next to the
Oh,
table fell over and crushed them. So
that's what it was.
the story goes, after they removed the bodies, they sent a guy up there that worked for the park. He was going to cut up the tree and remove the tree. And then all this weird stuff happened to him. So he took off running. And then all these stories about all this weird stuff happening around people, finding people dead up there, like they had a heart attack. I mean, now I thought this story was true. So when I filmed it, to the best of my knowledge, it was true. And then afterwards, over time, I looked a little more into it. I'm like, well, there's no real verification of either of these people, But despite that, it is an active location because I'll make the story very short. I found a theory called ghost brood, and basically what a ghost brood is there's two types. It's a group of ghosts, a brood that suck energy from human beings, and there's two types: dormant and roaming. Dormant stays in one location, and if nobody bothers it, it never pops up. Roaming latches onto you and follows you wherever you go. So I thought, okay, this is a good angle. And I said in my video, what could disturb a dormant, you know, ghost brood other than two people fooling around? So I filmed it and everything else that night. I'm editing it. And then I left it in the video. The moment I say ghost brood, something takes out the audio. I
Mm.
mean, and I thought I made a mistake, but it was something messed with the audio while I was talking about a ghost brood at that location.
Oh,
And
so it was gone.
yeah, so something is there. Whether the story of a couple is true or not, yeah, there's definitely something there. So that would be a
Yeah,
nice afternoon.
100%. Yeah, we looked into Griffith Park. Although the problem is that it's closed later at night, and it's like I have a little bit of a ethical approach about being in places we're not supposed to be.
Right.
Um, like we wanted to go in this Downey Insane Asylum, and it's like completely like guards going around it, and I'm just like,
I tried to look
we
into
can
that
get in.
too.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
we can get in. We can totally do this, and then I'm like, maybe we shouldn't. Like, I
Yeah.
really don't want to like fall in a like collapsed hole or get like tetanus or anything. So like maybe we should
Yeah.
like talk to the city and just get permission.
Yeah. All the other YouTubers make it look like, hey, we got in, we snuck in, nobody caught us. And it's like, no, that place is crawling with security. And
Oh, I mean, they're like, I don't know how if they like dug a hole underneath the earth or something. I mean, I wasn't even there for 2 minutes and security was already on us, and we had only made it to one of the outside gates. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, and I was like, well, maybe I can pay him some money, but I'm just like, ugh, no, I'm just going to contact the city of Downey and hopefully, please let us in there for like 2 hours
yeah. And then,
before
I
we
always
tear it
say,
down. It's such a cool building.
oh, they already did? They tore it down?
Not yet. They've torn a lot of it down. The water tower's there. And then I think it's the girls' dormitory on the other side is still there, but it still looks spooky. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like
And
it's crawling with,
And
rodents and bugs and hopefully ghosts.
yeah, and I always say you really can't call yourself a YouTuber unless security kicks you out of somewhere while you're filming. I mean, it's kind of like a rite of passage.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like some places are so cool about it, and then like, traveling in Louisiana, we had like some hotels that were like, okay, well, you're talking about your paranormal stuff. Like, why do you have we're bringing free business to you guys, whether it's haunted or not, but you're talking about it being haunted. You're selling the haunt. So like be stoked that I'm like, hey, let me just film this little bar area or let me do this real fast, and we're plugging them in and it's like, thousands of people are seeing it, so it's difficult sometimes, but yeah, hopefully we won't. And we have an upcoming shoot in Marietta at Kia Mill, and I'm just like, it's
Right on. I guess
technically
I
abandoned.
yeah, actually, I have some friends who film there. Yeah, that
Yeah,
place is
it's
trippy.
it's like you
I
just
know.
move the gate open. I mean, so I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I don't think anybody will have a problem with it. It's really, we're not disturbing, we're not graffiti, we're literally just sitting there being nerds and just, trying to,
yeah.
talk to the other side of, of the plane of existence. That's all we're
Like
doing.
anyone would.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
ugh.
all right. So I have a couple of outside the box questions, and then
Okay.
we'll wrap up. Um, so, if you could travel back in time to witness the original events that caused a haunting, would you do it? And if so, which location's history would you want to experience firsthand?
Gettysburg.
Wow, you're going large.
Um, yeah. I mean, there was so much bloodshed and so many I mean, our country went through so much stuff, and I just think it's just so interesting. Gettysburg is huge on my list. I'm trying to get there next year. That'll probably be on one of my locations and do some part of Gettysburg. But yeah,
That
I
was
would I would
actually
like to know, like how all of these spirits, why they're all still there and like what happened. Cause it seems like it's just, oh, war is awful.
Yeah, I had a friend. He passed away a couple of years ago. Sweet guy, Vietnam vet, and he was just a military history buff. I mean, he would like to work. We could bring books. He would bring a book that thick on some battle Napoleon had, and
Oh,
he was obsessed with. Yeah, he was obsessed with military history. And I remember him telling me one time that he did go to Gettysburg, and he's like, you can feel it. Because you walk up to that field and it's like electricity setting up the hair on your arm. You can totally feel it, everything that happened there. I mean, such a massive amount of death, both sides that happened there, and it is. I mean, if there's anywhere in America that's hallowed ground, that's one of the locations.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's like, when I went to Louisiana and, we went to Oak Alley and Myrtles, like you could walk in some of those areas and just feel it. It was like just horrific. And like by wondering why any spirit would want to be there. It's just one of those things where you just like, this is awful, you know?
mhm,
Um, and I think it makes you appreciate the fact that you're trying to get to like when I go into investigation, I'm always trying to get into what can I do for you
mhm.
with energy? What can we do for you? Are you okay? Are you stuck? What can I do for you? Because I'm not there just to find out, if this stuff exists or not, if I'm just crazy. I want to know what I can do to help. I want to leave my mark as being, um, a ghost hunter who helps these spirits. I don't ever want to take away.
I like that. I like that. That actually kind of answered a question I had.
Oh,
Uh,
next, sorry.
couple, couple of
My
yeah. Yeah,
improv.
you just answered two questions I was going to ask, so I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I'm gonna scroll quick.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But here's one that. So, do you believe that certain objects like antiques or personal items can hold a more intense paranormal energy than the locations they come from? I mean, have you had an experience with a haunted object?
Yeah. Yeah, I do, especially if they were instrument in somebody's demise, or if they were somebody's favorite attached item that had their energy on it all the time, like a doll from a kid, or like, a certain hairbrush, or a mirror that they would stare in all the time, I
A
100
really personal item.
really something personal that held their energy every day. Yeah, because if we're all made of energy, then the energy stays behind, and it stays behind and leaves a signature on our things.
Hmm. So, two last questions, and then we'll wrap up. If you could develop a new tool or piece of technology to help you communicate with the spirits more effectively, what would it be, and how would that change the way you investigate?
Um, I don't know if it would necessarily be a new tool. I would like things to be more clear, like, especially when I'm doing some of my spirit box sessions, because I'll hear stuff and I was like, "Oh, I heard that," and then I'm like, go back and I'm like, "No, you're an idiot. That wasn't said." Um, and it's frustrating, even with the noise condenser, even, and so, um, Josh and I had kind of talked about we want to get really, really good with this Estes method. I've done Estes method actually by myself. Um, and it works amazing. But sometimes viewers want to hear the words being said. So that's why sometimes filming Estes method isn't as largely popular. You know what Estes method is, right?
Yeah, yeah, I have
Okay.
a
Okay. Just making
it's
sure.
quite yeah, yeah, it's quite popular. I mean, there was one of the girls I interviewed early on for my podcast. She's called the Spooky Foodie. She loves the Estes method, but it's
Yeah.
always her boyfriend and earmuffs. And I told her, I'm like, it's always Nate. Poor Nate. She starts laughing. You know, but yeah, I see a lot of people swear by the Estes method. And
Yeah. It's amazing.
for those of you that may be listening or watching that aren't familiar with it, you want to share how the Estes method works.
Yeah, so SS method basically is your run of the mill spirit box, but you are working with a partner and your partner is blindfolded and has headphones, and basically they're plugged into the spirit box instead. So it gives you kind of like a closed in off of the whole world and into this world of frequency, and you're only hearing what you're hearing and all your senses are being deprived. It's supposed to help you actually kind of zone in better, and so, like, it could be me listening and then Josh asking questions. And
And
so that's something that.
you can't hear the person that's asking questions. All you're hearing is whatever's coming through those headphones.
Yes, and, like, they could be in another room, like, we've tested other rooms or whatever. I mean, it's that's one of those things, again, when people say, "Oh, spirit box are gimmicky or they're fake." I'm like, "Well, they are not." Like,
I
I
mean, I
spirit
could
box is
see
my
the
go-to.
yeah, I could see the room that someone could play around with it with the spirit box, but then you've had so many that so many people use over the years. It's like, okay, this has become no piece of technology has a guarantee, but this one has a steady and decent reputation. And people I know personally, they're like, yeah, I swear by this thing. I'm like, okay.
I
Yeah.
it's my go-to. If I'm not getting answers, I'm getting frustrated, I'm like, "When in doubt, spirit box." And honestly, like, that is some real shit. Like, it is saved me in so I've solved like crazy things. And Let Mansion, I mean, I literally heard Elsa say, "Will did it. Will killed me," which her brother. So I was just like, "Oh my god, this whole thing makes sense." I was like, "I need to send this to the Let Mansion," because I was like, she didn't commit suicide. She was murdered by her brother. And I was like, "Oh my god, her husband and her brother murdered her so they could get her money." And I was just like, "Oh,
Oh, that's
I would
awful.
have done that."
That is awful. Wow.
It was crazy. It was such a crazy experience, and then I was like, I made a whole episode for my other channel about it because it was just so gnarly. I was just like, "Oh my god, I just, like, basically solved, like, a 100-year-old murder mystery." In my opinion, I feel like I solved it. It was
Right on.
clear. It was completely clear what was said. So,
So basically, you just had an X Files episode all on your
basically, yeah. Yeah, and I should get
awesome.
paid, like, a lot for that.
So, okay, one last question, and then we'll wrap up. Do you think some spirits have a sense of humor? And if so, was there a funny or playful experience you've had in any of your investigations?
Absolutely, they have a sense of humor. Um, I had an EVP in Let Mansion actually, and I was like, "You can say something into my recorder," and then you hear something. So he basically told me
I remember
something, like
that.
he was
I
making a
remember
joke,
that.
something. I was like, "Bro, like, come
See,
on."
that would
I
be
was
me.
laughing
I
my
mean,
ass off. I thought it was great.
if I was haunting a place, I mean, I'm a Gemini, okay? I have 5 sisters. I am the most sarcastic person you've ever met,
It
okay? So
was
if I was haunting a place,
hilarious.
I would totally say that. So,
It was great.
dang.
It was great.
Uh,
Same thing at Queen Mary. They were like, I mean, those spirits were just saying like funny stuff and was like, lick it. And then like we were just like,
alrighty then.
yeah, yeah. Not like in Mitzvah where they were literally making me feel like I was like the worst person ever, you know? So
They
just
made you
saying these
feel they made you feel
crazy
dirty.
things. Yeah, like I was like, get this place off of me, you know. But at the same time, like it was an experience that I was like, okay, like I needed that. I needed to get shook up just to know that not everything is in the light. There's some
Right.
things that are still on a lower level energy that are, and I don't call them demons. I don't use the D
Right.
word. I call them lower level spirits. Like you're gonna have to start from the bottom and work your way back up. But
You know what?
yeah,
If you don't mind, I think I'm gonna use that phrase on my channel from now on. We don't see a
lower
demon here.
level.
We don't say demon, we say the D word,
I
okay?
I just
I like that. It's very family friendly.
I mean, I've studied demonology, like, I'm very familiar, with a lot of it, you know, we have a member that's experienced it, but the same time, like, I think it's something that's super interpersonal, and I think
Mhm,
that that's how they're interpreting whatever's going on with them, and if they wanna call it that, then that's fine. For me, like, that's my last resort. I'm like,
mhm.
unless something's
Yeah,
physically attacking you and, like, causing you to be absolutely psychotic, like, that okay, maybe we can, like, re-talk about that, but something to me that's just not kinda just being a dick, like, okay, that's lower level, you know? It's women, men, it could be anything, you know? So, but yeah, spirits can be very, very funny. And I think that's what keeps the whole part of the job fun because realizing that they're still just people, just
exactly.
in a different form. And there's no need, you know, don't be afraid. It's fine. They're just
Yeah,
people.
and actually that answer right there, that's been since I've started this podcast, that has been a recurring theme from my guests. It's like they were people once, okay? And
Yeah.
since they're still people, like
Yeah.
good and bad and in the middle and just treat them like you would want to be treated in that situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I just try to go in and just be fair and ask fair questions, not making me feel bad. I don't like, you know, provoke. I don't
Mhm.
poke. I don't try to be mean. I mean, I will be like, oh, we're not doing that. If somebody's, you know, if I get something that's not being
Yeah,
nice to me, I'm like, oh hell no. But
yeah.
it's really
It
good to
always
keep
struck.
your boundaries.
Mhm. 'Cause
So
the thing with provocation with me, I mean, it can be because there's different levels of provocation. You can even say just reaching out to them and wanting to speak to them, asking them to respond. That's the lowest level of provocation. It's like,
mhm,
interaction. Then you have it going up, and then you get it the Zach Bagans level where it's just crazy. But my thing with provocation, it's like I never really. It's not something I'm going to really like go that far with because
mhm,
you can't see this. You can't see them. Okay. You have no
yeah,
idea if they're going to follow you home or be in the car when you drive home. So
yeah,
why aggravate something that you cannot see if it's going to stick around? That's just the way I
yeah.
look at it.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I go in with a clear head. I go in with like, hey, we're all equal on this drawing board. If you want to communicate, cool. If you don't, cool. You know, and if there's anything I can do to help you, great. And if not, then that's where we leave it.
absolutely. So as we close up the interview, again, thank you so much for agreeing to come on my show. This has been a
Of
blast.
course.
You're so much fun to talk to.
Oh, good.
Now, what do we have coming up from Spirit Chaser? What can we look forward to down the road?
Oh, we have a lot. We have a lot going on. So we have Queen Mary tomorrow. So by the time y'all see this, it's gonna be a bit past. But I threw in a lot of my solo stuff that I do for my other channel because I do travel pretty extensively to film. So you guys are going to be getting we're gonna have Spadra Cemetery. That's gonna be amazing. Something really bad happens to me there. Probably
Oh,
one of the worst things that could happen. Um, and then I'm traveling to Colorado, so we'll have a whole thing on the Stanley Patterson Inn, Hotel Coronado, a bunch of that, and then my whole Louisiana trip. I mean, all of New
wow.
Orleans. We have some great stuff coming up, and as a team, um, we film we film once a month right now, but we're going to step it up to twice a month. So you guys are going to get a lot of content and we are consistent. Every Friday, 6 p.m., you will have a brand new episode. You might have a couple different ones thrown in there. Like we will have a gear episode being thrown in there just so you guys can understand some of the gear that we use. And then also our outtakes and oh shit moment. That was, we just
Yeah,
filmed. That was ridiculous.
yeah. You mentioned that before I started recording that you have like a blooper reel or something coming
Yeah,
up. That I'm
yeah.
looking forward to.
We've
Yeah,
we've had well, I think you've seen Josh. I mean, he's like he deserves his own show. It's like I'm just like we called it Josh's loose lips because he's just ridiculous. Like the stuff he says, I'm just like, where do you come up with this? Like you should be doing stand up. Um he's wonderful. And then it's like, we'll watch AC have a total meltdown, so we just decided to take all these crazy moments and then hilarious moments together of just us being total and nervous on camera and messing up, and we just thought it would be funny, to throw something different in there. Cause I mean, if you're watching the same thing over and over again, people get bored.
yeah,
I get
yeah.
bored.
I mean,
So
yeah. It's not always crazy hauntings every week. Sometimes it's just
no.
like you know, people tripping or like what happened to me with my blooper reel. I was in the one of the LA River Basin. Okay, and
Yeah.
I slipped and fell in this greasy. My clothes weren't wet; they were wet and
Oh,
green. I don't know why the water was green and it stuck to my clothing and my
it's
leather
LA,
jacket.
honey.
Yeah. My my father could not stop laughing when he saw that. I'm like, yeah, I'm not embarrassed at all. My dad knows I'm an idiot. Okay, but
Yeah.
so where can we find you online?
So we're all
All
over
your
the
social
place.
media
Yeah, we
as
have
on.
we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. They're all under OCPI Spirit Chaser. Um
Okay.
so OCPI is our group, Spirit Chaser is our show. So some people are like, "Wait, I don't understand what the difference
Oh, okay.
is."
Oh,
So
okay. I,
I
I
was
didn't
like,
I didn't know that. So cool.
I know people
And
are like,
I
"Wait,
don't.
what's Spirit Chaser?" I'm like, "That's our show." But we are an actual
But
group of people that came together to film a
okay.
show.
And And for those of you watching this on YouTube, I will provide links to their website and all their social media in the video description below. So you can click on, follow them, go along with them on their adventures. You will have a blast. Tiffany, thank you once more. This has been a blast. I really appreciate it. Those of you watching, thank you for tuning in. This has been Beyond the Compass, where travelers and the paranormal meet at the crossroads. So until the next time, thank you and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. I could have done that exit better, but hey,
You're
let
like,
me